Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word? Today is Monday, February 15th, 2021, and today the word comes from 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 18 and 19, which read, "Instruct them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous, willing to share with others. In this way, storing up for themselves the enduring riches of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life." And from that, I want to point to Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21, which say, "Do not store up for yourselves material treasures on earth where they will be destroyed, but store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." These two verses pretty much go hand in hand. Matthew tells you that treasures on earth will be destroyed, but treasures in heaven won't be, and that if you keep your treasure in heaven, there your heart will also be. But Timothy tells you that enduring riches are a good foundation of the future, which help you live a good life. So what those enduring riches are is generosity. So when you live a life of generosity, you live a life which is truly good. In scoreboard watching, Maryland basketball was in action twice over the week, going 1-1. The loss coming last Monday against 4th-ranked Ohio State with a score of 73-65. The Terps led by as much as 8 in the first half, and after giving up the first points of the game, didn't trail again until the 4-minute and 40-second marker. Even after being on the wrong end of an 18-7 run, Maryland only trailed by 5 at halftime. However, an 0 of 9 shooting effort to start the second half saw the deficit balloon to 14, and the gap was just too large to overcome with inconsistent shooting. For Maryland, they played well in the paint in the first half, having an advantage of 18-4, but then in the second half, they settled for threes too much, and they shot 5 of 19 overall, or 26%. In the next game, on Sunday, Maryland defeated Minnesota 72-59. Maryland's small lineup helped them produce the season's best offensive output against a conference opponent. With the extra spacing, the Terps knocked down 53% of their shots, including 10 of their 20 three-point attempts. On the other end, they also played stifling defense, holding Minnesota's best player, Brandon Carr, to just 9 points, and their 7-foot center, Liam Robbins, to 2 points. The Golden Gophers only shot 32% from the floor and 28% from distance. Next up on Maryland's schedule was a trip to Nebraska to face them on Wednesday at 7 p.m., but the NCAA made some changes to that. Maryland would now play Nebraska both Tuesday and Wednesday, both games coming at home and at 7 p.m. The game on Tuesday is a reschedule from a postponement that happened on Saturday, January the 16th. The Georgetown Hoyas were also 1-1 over their week of action. Last Tuesday, they fell back to reality, losing to 19th-ranked Creighton 63-48. The Hoyas looked tired and unenthusiastic, turning the ball over 24 times and shooting a putrid 27%. They were bullied in the paint, losing that battle 38-12, and head coach Patrick Ewing called their effort very selfish after they went 9 of 31 from distance, including jacking up 20 three-pointers in the first half alone. Creighton never trailed and led by as much as 24 en route to avenging their 86-79 home court loss suffered to Georgetown on February the 3rd. Georgetown got back in the win column on Saturday, defeating Butler 78-63. It was a weird mix of sloppy ball movement but hot shooting for the Hoyas, as they turned the ball over 23 times but shot 52% from the floor and made half of their 22 three-point attempts. In the same number of free throw attempts, Georgetown made 19, good for 86%. After a 4-0 Butler run to open the action, the Hoyas would go on to control the game and push their lead as high as 25. Seniors Javon Blair and Jamarco Pickett each reached the 1,000-point milestone for their collegiate careers. Next up for Georgetown, they will host Seton Hall this Saturday at 5:30 p.m. In the association, the Washington Wizards had a 2-win, 2-loss week. Last Monday, they defeated the Chicago Bulls 105-101. Russell Westbrook was once again sitting out due to rest, but we did get an encouraging quote from Scott Brooks saying hopefully in the near future we can see him in some back-to-backs, which there is actually a back-to-back today, so we shall see what is to come of that. Back to the game, Bradley Beal had 35 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, but he had a pretty sloppy final minute of play. He had one of his 2 turnovers with 43 seconds remaining, and he missed his only free throw of the night with 9 seconds remaining. He did have a pretty good sense of humor about it, saying that Zach LaVine told him to make things interesting. University of Maryland product Alex Len started and scored 13 points in 21 minutes. He added 7 rebounds and 2 blocks, and he also contested the potential game-winning layup from Zach LaVine, who had 35 points on the night. As a birthday gift to himself, Rui Hachimura had a 19-point, 10-rebound double-double, his first of the season. Speaking of season firsts, Davis Bertans got his first start of the season and added 12 points on 4 of 13 3-point shooting. The 4 of 13 looks a little worse than it was because he missed all 5 of his 3-point attempts in the second half, but he went 4 of 8 in the first quarter, including 3 of 5 in the second quarter alone. With Davis Bertans starting, that means Deni Avdija had to come off the bench, and he kind of struggled in his first game in his new role, only scoring 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting, including missing all 5 of his 3-point attempts and both of his free throws. But he did add 10 rebounds and 3 steals, although the 3 steals did not help his defensive rating, which was a team low 76.2 on a night where the team had a 99 defensive rating overall. The Wizards and Bulls both struggled from 3, as the Wizards shot 23%, 6 of 26, and the Bulls went 9 of 30 for 30%. The Wizards failed to keep any momentum from the win, as on Wednesday they lost to the Toronto Raptors 137 to 115. Russell Westbrook had 23 points on 9 of 19 shooting, including going 3 of 7 from beyond the arc, also adding 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 5 turnovers, 4 of which came in the first half alone, so he was a little bit better taking care of the ball in the second half. Bradley Beal added 24 points on 8 of 20 shooting, struggled from 3 once again, going 1 of 6, and made all 7 of his free throws. He also added 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 turnovers of his own. Davis Bertans had 9 points on 3 of 9 3-point shooting, but again, he had a better first half than second half, as he made 3 of 6 3-pointers in the first half and went 0 of 3 in the second half. The Wizards in total shot 29% from the 3, while the Raptors shot 59% from beyond the arc, making 19 3-pointers. Norman Powell had 28 points, Pascal Siakam had 26, Kyle Lowry had 21, and Chris Boucher had a 17-point, 16-rebound double-double. The Wizards were in this game up until the 8-minute and 16-second marker of the fourth quarter, where they only trailed by 6. And the interesting thing is that is when Bradley Beal checked back into the game, and the Wizards would go on to lose by 22. Not saying it's Brad's fault, as they subbed him back out shortly thereafter. And, the reason that they lost by 22 was the bench. But that's not a good look, trailing by only 6, and then your star player comes back in and the team somehow performs worse. On Friday, the Wizards suffered probably their most disappointing defeat, losing to the New York Knicks 109 to 91. This time, it was actually Bradley Beal sitting out due to rest, with the Wizards in the middle of a 16-game stretch in the month of February, and with the back-to-back coming yesterday and today, it seemed like a pretty good time to give Brad some rest, but the Knicks had other plans, defeating the Wizards by 18 points. Garrison Matthews got the start in Brad's place, having a pretty good game, 14 points on 4 of 13 shooting, including going 4 of 10 from 3. He also added 2 blocks from the guard position, which is really encouraging. I've said all season long, I love what Garrison Matthews is adding defensively, as well as his ability to knock down the 3. Russell Westbrook had 23 points on 10 of 22 shooting, missed all 4 of his 3-point attempts, and struggled at the free throw line, missing 3 of his 6 attempts there. He added 10 assists, 9 rebounds, and of course another 5 turnovers. Davis Bertans had 9 points on 2 of 6 3-point shooting, one of which actually came in the second half, so slightly better, right? Troy Brown Jr. had 10 points on 3 of 7 shooting, going 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, so I liked seeing that he got some bump and shot the ball well, pretty decently, but he had 3 turnovers, so as he tries to transition into more of a point guard role, he kind of struggled taking care of the ball. Rui Hachimura had 10 points, and that's pretty much all the Wizards did as far as that. They were outscored in the paint by the Knicks 58-42. They struggled again from 3, only shooting 26%. Luckily, the Knicks struggled as well, only shooting 25%. But the Knicks did... But what the Knicks did do is dominate the Wizards on the boards, out-rebounding the Wizards 65-46. Julius Randle had 24 points and 18 rebounds for the double-double. And in 20 minutes, Mitchell Robinson had a 10-point, 14-rebound double-double before leaving the game with a fractured hand. So prayers up to him. Hopefully he can come back soon from that. I think he's expected to miss 3 to 6 weeks, so not too bad. But all in all, prayers up to him. And finally, that brought us to yesterday's game, where the Washington Wizards defeated the Boston Celtics 104-91, marking the first time that they've held an opponent under 100 points on the season. Bradley Beal responded well to his rest, dropping 35 points, 33 through 3 quarters, so the 2 points in the fourth quarter comes with him not really playing much in the fourth quarter. And a really good shooting night. 10 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 9 from beyond the arc, and 11 for 11 from the free throw line. 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, but pretty sloppy with the ball, 6 turnovers. Russell Westbrook had a low-scoring near triple-double, 13 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds. Struggled from the floor, 6 of 19, 0 of 2 from beyond the arc, and missed 2 of his 3 free throws, including an air ball from the free throw line. And he only turned the ball over 3 times. Garrison Matthews started in place of Davis Bertans at the 3. He didn't score, but he played great perimeter defense with 2 steals in 20 minutes. But unfortunately, he left the game in the fourth quarter with an apparent hip injury. And up until this point, I haven't heard anything about his availability for tonight's game. Rui Hachimura had a really good game, 15 points on 5 of 9 shooting, including being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, and knocking down all 5 of his attempts. Davis Bertans went 2 of 6 from 3, added 8 points, and Deni Avdija also added 8 points and 10 rebounds, though he did not shoot the ball well from the floor, going 2 of 9 and 1 of 5 from 3, but he has gotten a little bit better at shooting free throws, going 3 of 4. After the Celtics scored the first point of the game, the Wizards never trailed again and led by as much as 25 points. One of the negatives is that the Wizards still struggle from 3 as they shot 7 of 30 or 23% and turned the ball over 18 times. Lucky for them, the Celtics struggled just as much as they shot 25% and turned the ball over 17 times. They also shot just 60% from the free throw line, so if they would have made those free throws, maybe it would have been a closer game for the Celtics. Kemba Walker dropped 25 points, as did Jaylen Brown, but the Wizards held Jason Tatum to just 6 points on 3 of 14 shooting. If there's one thing to look out for from this game, the Wizards were scoreless for the last 3 minutes and 6 seconds, and they went without a field goal for the last 6 minutes and 15 seconds. A lot of that came with the reserves in the game, but still, you don't want to go that long without scoring. Luckily for them, Boston didn't really close the gap too much from there. Next up for the Wizards, as I mentioned, they will be playing the back end of a double-double today against John Wall and the Houston Rockets at 7 p.m. Lastly, for the Wizards, they were granted a disabled player exception worth $4.16 million after losing center Thomas Bryant to the partially torn ACL. And if they choose to use this exception, they have until April 19th to do so, and they can only sign a player through the remainder of the season. The Washington Capitals were set to have 4 games over the past week, but got an unscheduled break as their games on Tuesday against the Philadelphia Flyers, as well as their 2-game series with the Buffalo Sabres, scheduled for Thursday and Saturday, were all postponed in adherence to the NHL's COVID-19 protocols. The break did allow the Capitals to get healthy as Evgeny Kuznetsov, Ilya Samsonov, and Jacob Vrana were all removed from the COVID-19 protocol list. Other than goaltender Ilya Samsonov, who was reassigned to the Capitals' AHL affiliate Hershey Bears for a conditioning stint, the team had their first full lineup since January 19th. Bringing that into their game on Sunday, the Capitals unfortunately lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-3. Marking their 4th straight regulation loss, making them 0-4 in the month of February. Ironic or not, the star of the game was rust. Either Washington's Rust playing in their first game in exactly 1 week, or Pittsburgh's Brandon Rust, who scored 2 goals and added an assist while being named first star of the game. Returning to the lineup, Evgeny Kuznetsov and the league's best power play unit put the Caps on the board first, going 1 of 4 on the man advantage for the day. But it would be the Penguins who'd enter the first intermission with a 2-1 lead, and after exchanging 2 goals apiece in the second period, Pittsburgh would add 2 empty net goals in the third, making the final score look worse than it truly was. After being named the Rookie of the Month for January, goaltender Vitek Vanacek has really struggled. In this game, he made 32 saves on 36 shots, but the Capitals have allowed 22 goals against during their 4-game losing streak, and that pushes their goal against average to 3.77, which is second worst in the NHL. Next up for the Capitals, they will finish out their 2-game set with the Penguins tomorrow at 7 p.m. UFC 258 took place over the weekend, and the main event featured welterweight champion Kamaru Usman taking on his former teammate Gilbert Burns. And the reigning defending champion got the job done, landing the TKO 34 seconds into the 3rd round.
Usman, but I think technically, and it has backed up. Expecting a kickboxing match that's largely how it's played out. He not allowing Usman to get the goal.
Kamaru Usman's win was his 13th consecutive, breaking a tie with GSP for the most in welterweight history. Georges St-Pierre is arguably the greatest of all time, so what does this win mean for Kamaru Usman? As for the fight itself, after a strong start, I thought that Gilbert Burns winded himself. I think the fact that they didn't touch gloves to begin the fight kind of got in Gilbert Burns' head, and he tried to land the knockout too early. He did get the pretty good shot, as you saw in the highlight clip in the 1st round, but after that, it was all Kamaru Usman, as you can see from the stats. The 2 minutes and 5 seconds of control time pretty much came with Gilbert Burns just giving up and laying on the ground. After a head kick in the 1st round, he slipped and didn't try to get back up. And then after being knocked down in rounds 2 and 3, he didn't really make an effort to get back to his feet. But I also think part of Gilbert Burns' struggle with conditioning was the fact that he did have a bout with COVID-19. And if I can tell you, personally speaking, it is rough getting your cardiovascular back afterwards. But no excuses. He lost the fight. And Kamaru Usman reminded him that he's levels above him, saying, quote, "I'm the varsity guy." And you could tell throughout the fight that Gilbert Burns just wasn't expecting to get hit so hard by a former teammate. Speaking of the former teammate storyline, I really liked that it was Kamaru Usman switching camps, allowing Gilbert Burns to stay and fight in, what he was used to, and Kamaru Usman going to another camp and leveling himself up. Obviously, from the fight, you could tell that he worked on striking. After the fight, Kamaru Usman called out his next opponent, and you can see that he wants it to be Jorge Masvidal, saying that Masvidal had a built-in excuse going into their fight back in July, only accepting it on short notice, 6 days notice, saying that that's the only reason that Jorge Masvidal would have taken the fight, because building up to All right, some background. For those of you who don't know, it was supposed to be Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman back in July, but Burns got COVID, like I mentioned, so Jorge Masvidal stepped in on 6 days' notice, and Kamaru Usman is saying that Masvidal didn't want to sign a contract and only took the fight because he had an excuse of fighting on short notice. Anyway, I like that Kamaru Usman called out Jorge Masvidal because that was a pretty interesting fight nonetheless back in July, and it should make an even more interesting fight when both fighters get a full training camp preparing for each other. UFC President Dana White did have a different idea before the fight, saying that the winner of a Leon Edwards and Colby Covington fight would get next at Kamaru Usman. Obviously, Leon Edwards was scheduled to fight Khamzat Chimaev, but that fight was canceled 3 times due to COVID. The first time back in December, Leon Edwards had COVID, so he had to cancel, and then the last 2 times, Chimaev has had to call off the fight due to his COVID. Another announcement from UFC President Dana White is that legend Jon Jones will be making his heavyweight debut in a title fight, getting the winner of Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou, which is set to take place as the main event of UFC 260 on March the 27th. After that, Dana White said that he will be aiming for the next championship bout between Jon Jones and that winner to take place sometime during the summer. Before UFC 260 takes place and we learn who Jon Jones will be challenging for the heavyweight belt, we do have another pay-per-view, UFC 259, taking place on March the 6th. And that pay-per-view will feature 3 championship bouts with 6 different belts. The light heavyweight championship will be on the line between Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya, who also holds the middleweight championship. And the featherweight championship in the women's division will be on the line between Amanda Nunes, who also holds the bantamweight championship, and her challenger Megan Anderson, as well as a bantamweight championship fight in the men's division with Peter Yan taking on Aljamain Sterling. Add in the fact that UFC 260 has another championship bout between Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. That is 7 championship bouts in the matter of just over a month. So a lot to look forward to in the UFC. In the sports news around the area, the Washington football team and quarterback Taylor Heineke have agreed on a 2-year contract extension worth about $8.75 million. If you look at the contract breakdown, that $8.75 million does include a $1 million signing bonus and a lot of incentives for games played, making the roster, and making it to the playoffs. So take away all of that, you're only really guaranteeing Taylor Heineke $1.5 million for the next 2 seasons. $1.5 million for each of the next 2 seasons. So it's a pretty good contract for somebody who is slated to be a backup but could potentially earn a starting position. And I love it. And I know Chase Young loves it too. The Baltimore Ravens news is not as positive, as 2-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Orlando Brown has reportedly requested a trade, preferring his destination be a team that will allow him to play left tackle. I showed you all the tweets last week, but Orlando Brown expounded on that, tweeting some excerpts from a Baltimore Sun article, pretty much just saying that his dad, who played left tackle in the league with the Baltimore Ravens, believed that right tackles weren't as good. So Orlando Brown just wants to make his late father proud, which you can't really blame him for. He said that there's no love lost between him and the organization. It's just that he wants an opportunity to, show that he is as good, if not better than his father, which is what his dad always wanted from him. Of course, like I said last week, Baltimore doesn't have to trade him. In fact, Orlando Brown is a free agent in 2022, like I said. And the trade kind of makes sense. A trade would kind of make sense from his standpoint, as if he wants to be a left tackle before hitting free agency, he's kind of got to show that he can play left tackle more consistently than just the few times he got this season. The news coming out of Major League Soccer is that the season will now begin on April 17th rather than April 3rd as it was originally announced, thanks to a delay in reaching a collective bargaining agreement, which they finally did. The new CBA will now run through 2027 and will incrementally increase player spending from the current $9.2 million to $13 million. So in other words, the quote salary cap will increase and players can get more money. So teams can now spend more on a quality product on the field, and players can actually earn money that will keep them in Major League Soccer rather than venturing on to, say, the Premier League or other leagues around the world. As for DC United, they also unveiled their new 2021 road kits, which they are labeling the Marble Jersey, and it looks pretty cool up close. But the further you get, you can't really see the marbling detail, so it's kind of plain all in all. While blue isn't a primary color in DC United's scheme, the jersey is a nod to their 1997 alternate kit, which you can see up here, which was labeled the Cat in the Hat edition, and it's red, white, and blue. So all in all, pretty underwhelming, but I like jersey reveals nonetheless. As for another league releasing their schedule, Major League Baseball released a full 162 game schedule with opening day starting on April 1st. The Baltimore Orioles will be on the road to take on the Boston Red Sox at 2:10 p.m. and the Washington Nationals will get their season underway at home against the New York Mets at 7:05 p.m. As for the annual Beltway Series, the Nationals will be the home team Friday, May 21st through Sunday, May 23rd, and the Orioles will be at home Friday, July 23rd through Sunday, July 25th. In other Orioles news, the team made another interesting minor league deal, signing pitcher Matt Harvey to a $1 million contract, if he makes the team, of course. Matt Harvey is another instance of a pitcher who was an all-star, even pitched in the World Series for the New York Mets, but has fallen off a cliff lately due to injuries. So this offers another low risk, high reward for the Orioles, and if everything pans out, they have another arm to potentially trade at the trade deadline. That's everything I have for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.